Hi there, it's Wade McMaster here. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how I got 2.1 million visitors onto one of my websites. Now, this isn't all in one hit. We're talking about, I've had the website running for a number of years, and over the past 5 years, it's had well over 2 million visitors. Basically, that averages out and it's gone up and down over the years between 1,000 to 2,000 visitors a day. So I thought I'd share my experience on how I was able to build this website to get to that point where I was getting 1,000 visitors plus a day and overall over 2 million visitors over the past 5 years. So I'll get straight into it, and the first thing I'm going to tell you that I did is, first thing I did was I actually aimed for low competition. Now if you have a high competition industry you're entering, you can still use this tip because I'm not just talking about the website itself. I'm talking about the posts. So the website itself was actually a website that reviews martial arts movies. I've been training in martial arts at this stage for 15 years. Got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I do Muay Thai, I've done a number of other arts over the years, and I always loved the movies, and I thought this gave me a unique angle to be able to discuss not just the quality of the movies, but some martial arts insight into the fight scenes and the philosophies of those films. Now when I did the research for this, I found there were not very many other martial arts movie sites out there at the time. There are a few out there now. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity for me to create a website which could be easily found and probably get some traffic, because there's bound to be people out there searching for information on martial arts movies. But even as it got more popular and the other sites crept up, I had to search for low competition blog post ideas in order to rank those blog posts. So aiming for low competition, it's one of those things where it's easy to slide through and get seen because you're not having to compete with a crowded space. Now, like I said, it can be your whole site, the niche or topic of your site, or it can be individual pieces of content. But this is a way to sort of like boost up your website sort of by using, you don't get to, unfortunately, you don't get to go and do the fun stuff that everyone's talking about and compete there as effectively, but it does help you boost your audience through other means, aiming for low competition. And the next thing I did, well, obviously, since I mentioned blog posts, is I started a blog. I started content marketing. Now, if you already run a blog, you're probably wondering why the hell I'm even bringing this up. But something you need to consider, if you're someone watching this and you don't have a blog or you don't have some kind of content marketing in place, it's going to be difficult to get those kind of numbers to your site. Because what content marketing essentially is you're trying to create some kind of value, whether it be entertainment or tutorials or information or something. You're going to give it away free so that people are attracted into it and find you so that you can promote the rest of your business or site or whatever it is. So starting a blog is perfect, because if I'm talking about martial arts movies and I want to make money by selling an ebook or selling ad space, I need to actually have something there for people to look at. The idea is to attract them there, get eyeballs on what it is you're writing, and then basically promote what you want to promote while you're offering that free information. This is perfect for other things such as YouTubes and podcasts where you get brand deals, ads, or you're selling affiliate products or your own products. I basically started the blog as a way of getting more people onto the site and making money off things like ad space and an ebook that I was selling. So starting a blog, starting content marketing is pretty much, I think, going to be essential to getting those kinds of numbers onto a website. Now, of course, the next step is to offer value. So in all these blog posts, like I said before, were offering value. I wanted to make sure what I was giving was something that people would actually really like. Now, I do feel I went into a bit of a slump there for a while where I wasn't being as valuable as I could have been, but in the start and then, of course, after that slump, what I tried to make sure I did was basically give a lot of insight into my film reviews and the other content that I wrote later on down the track. The very nature of the content's a bit different and more valuable. But the reviews itself, when I started, I tried to make sure I really went in depth, get a lot of insight into some of the messages and things in the film, and not simply just talking about the quality of the film, but other aspects of it that are interesting or trivial. So adding a bit of value, adding something into your content that people can't get elsewhere is something that you help boost those posts or your content up there to get more people interested in it and to come back to you to get the same level of content when they want to read more. So adding value is essential to getting more visitors. Now, once I got started, got the rolling a little bit, I got on social media and I actually decided to approach people to try and share this for me. Now, you're probably wondering how that works, but the idea is basically I looked up profiles on Facebook at the time was the big player, a little bit on Twitter, and I just approached people and said, hey, look, I got this new website, I got bits and pieces, just want to see if you like it. If they did, just go, feel free, I'm actually trying to get the word out, would you mind sharing it? And some people I didn't even do that with, but a number of people did share it. But the big one was I was promoting being a martial arts movie site. I went onto actors' Facebook pages and I left links. I left a small introduction to myself and the website there on their page. Now, one actor who had a pretty decent following at the time, he had I think about 100,000 fans. He's now got millions of likes on his page, but he really liked it. His name was Scott Adkins, and he actually shared the link to my website. And from there, I started getting a few hundred visitors a day straight away, and I got 500 likes on my page that morning. So by actually going and finding other people with existing networks, I was able to get like a really big kickstart and boost that site and get it running. Now, this didn't win over the whole site because there are times when things lulled and I had to really boost that up. But that kickstart definitely helped in a big way. So you can't rely on it to really carry you all the way through, but if you can really go after it, it can help you get moving a bit quicker. Now, as I mentioned, like I said, I got a big start because I had someone with a much larger audience share my work, but I kind of hit a wall there for a while where I wasn't getting more numbers and they started to lull. And what happened was I also was dropping my quality a little bit. What I had to do was take a step back for a bit because I was starting to get too involved in pumping out content and just sharing it out to this audience, trying to deliver, that I kind of lost track and sort of got a bit over-focused in some areas. So what I did was I had to step back, I checked my analytics, I checked my content, I spoke to my fans a little bit about it, and just made some adjustments to my content. I started changing a few things about what I did to improve the quality and actually find out what it is people were looking for and sort of deliver that to them instead of just simply using just my voice to talk about what I wanted to talk about. Trying to work out what it is that people were looking for when they're on my site and include that information on there really helped because it actually then meant that people were going there and getting what it is that they wanted. So making tweaks and adjustments as you go is essential. I did that the whole time with the website and kept it alive that way. Now, another step I did was I actually started a small YouTube channel. What happened was I was trying to find other ways of promotion. When I was making my adjustments that I previously mentioned, I was trying to find other ways to promote and basically make adjustments to how I promote the site. Now, a lot of people in that space were sharing sort of like tributes to certain actors with fight scenes and music. So they're creating music videos with fight scenes in them and that sort of thing. So what I did was I did a few of these myself and promoted some of those. And one of the videos actually at this point has a little under 5 million views on it. And so starting a small YouTube channel with a handful of videos with some of them doing exceptionally well was another way I got a lot of attention online and actually managed to drive traffic to the website. So starting a YouTube channel, although this is an exceptional example, it's another way to reach more people and definitely I feel is a bit easier to grow on than a lot of other platforms these days. So that definitely helped my website and it's something that you could use to grow yours as well because it helps you to promote and repurpose your content. Now during this whole process, like I said, I made some adjustments. I started putting some stuff on YouTube. I noticed that people weren't really searching for reviews as much as I thought they would be because people were responding more to other types of content that I put out on occasion. And I realized that when it came to movies, people weren't looking to read about movies, they wanted to find recommendations for movies. So I sort of shifted focus from just doing reviews on single films to writing much shorter reviews in lists. So I did top lists, the top movies by Jackie Chan, the top movies by Bruce Lee, the top movies by Scott Adkins, who shared my post. And I started focusing on creating blog posts like that because what happened was then the search engine numbers really started to rise because then I was able to identify more what it is that people were looking for. So I changed my content model completely. And even though the whole idea behind the site was I was going to actually review some 200 or something films on this list, I kept on with that, but I just didn't do them as frequently. I focused more on the lists, and from then, the change didn't happen straight away, but the search engine traffic grew down the track to those lists, and that's where it really started to take off and get more traffic. So it's not about creating top lists, although I do recommend trying top lists on your blog if that's what you're trying to grow, but really trying to figure out what people would be searching for in regards to your niche. People looking for movie recommendations, top lists are perfect. If people are looking for gardening tips, they're probably looking for tutorials or how to do certain things. I'm not a gardener, so I don't know, but you get the idea. You need to try and figure out, okay, what are people looking for, and offer that so that you can actually really take advantage of people on Google and search engines. Now, one thing I did notice is I noticed that the longer posts on my site were getting more traffic as well. The list posts were naturally longer because they could be, but I did a bit of research and found out that apparently basically longer posts do better in search. Reading on like Neil Patel's website, things like that, saying, you know, at the time, I think it's a bit different now, but sort of 2,500 words was a pretty good range to shoot for to optimize your blog post length for search engines. So I started making sure that as often as I could, I got at least 3,000 to 5,000 words in my real big pillar content anyway. Some of my reviews I tried to make sure that I had at least 1,000 words, but I really focused on coming up with content that I could really flesh out and get really long word counts on. So combining some of the things I already talked about, like things like coming up with top lists or coming up with things I know people will be searching for, and then fleshing them out in great detail, thousands and thousands of words. I was sending all the right signals to search engines to send me more traffic. So adding and moving these steps one by one, I was able to slowly again improve my traffic and start to get up to that, starting to get about 500 to 600 visitors a day. But one thing that really helped kick off my traffic also was I started an email list. So the way it works is I basically got people on email in exchange for downloading a PDF book, which was, 20 movies that all martial arts fans should watch. And from there, I actually set up an autoresponder series. So as they signed up, I would send them out some of my best content. Now I started off pretty frequently. I sent out I think 3 or 4 in the first week. In the second week, I send out say 2 or 3, and I slowly decreased the frequency to once every week or fortnight after a while. So that way, you're not kind of wearing people out by being too intense. Because if people have got a fresh interest, they want to see a lot of you at the start, but as their interest shifts away, they don't necessarily want to stop hearing from you, but they don't want to hear from you every second day. So starting that email list allowed me to turn essentially one visit into as many as 20 or 30 visits over time. Because if one person landed on the site and signed up for that email list, they would return another 20, 30 times, basically, because I'm sending out a good 50 or so emails afterwards. That might be not quite accurate, but you sort of get the idea. Turning one visit into many with an email list is a powerful way to increase your traffic, and also engaged traffic, because people will start to get used to you. They start leaving comments, they start interacting, they start buying your ebooks, things like that. It was definitely a way to increase my traffic numbers and also traffic quality. Now, what I also did was I constantly re-promoted old content. I made sure that I identified what good content was and what bad content was, and even some of the popular reviews, although they were nowhere near as popular as some of the bigger articles I wrote in lists and things like that. I try to make sure I always re-promoted once, twice a week. I'd pop an old post up there, give it a refresh for new people, and I got more people in there that way. But this also helped boost my search engine signals, because I was getting lots of likes and shares as well. So re-promoting old content as I was chugging along and growing this site also helped grow the numbers as well. But the other thing is, as you're getting more visitors on your site, you start to get performance issues. And the other thing I noticed is that I don't think the site speed was quite as good. I jumped on one day and found out that the site speed, it took up to 20 seconds for the page to load. And back then, I think 2 to 3 seconds is what you're shooting for. So I went gung-ho in and I sped up the website, because what's happening is people landing on the site, the page isn't loading, and they're leaving before anything even shows up. So what I did was I got in there, took a lot of steps to basically speed up the site so that the page loaded in under 2 seconds. Because if it's just one of those important factors, especially when you start getting a lot of traffic, because that's when you really notice the difference, is when you've got a lot of numbers coming your way. You need to optimize things like that to improve the interactions. And the more you improve the interaction, lower your bounce rate and things like that, the more traffic Google sends your way as well. So that was another way I was able to help build those numbers up, was simply by speeding up the site. As a designer, something that I learned over the years in this next tip is basically, I've always said about giving people what they want, but I didn't realize when I thought about speeding up the site, if people didn't even see the page load, what happens if the page loaded and they couldn't see the content? So having that content above the fold. Now the fold is pretty much the bottom of your screen. So the idea is I redesigned the site because I had quite a tall navigation and image area, and the content started sort of halfway down the page. So if you had a smaller screen, sometimes you'd be looking at the navigation but no content. So I shrunk that navigation up very thin and made sure that the content was right there straight away. So when you landed, you saw nothing but straight away you can see the content and you can see the nav. So I actually redesigned and made the site much simpler. And obviously when I first designed the site, it was already responsive for mobiles and things like that. But this just meant that if you were on a phone, the experience was even better because you didn't have to scroll down to reach the content. So I made sure content was above the fold, so I redesigned and made sure things were simpler. And that again improved how people behaved on the website. So at this point, by then I'd sort of reached my point. At the peak I was getting about 3,000 visitors a day. I know I said 1,000 to 2,000, but for a couple of months there I was getting up to 3,000 visitors a day. And I was posting very frequently for the first two years or so. But from there, I basically started to decrease the frequency. Because the website's traffic had been built up fairly well and search engines were sending me, thousands of people every single day to look at the website, I was able to sort of go, okay, it's time to slowly dial back the frequency, because I was posting about 3 to 4 times a week and it's just a bit much, especially when you've really fleshed something out. You've found all the top, in this case, most of the top actors in this industry, reviewed most of their top movies. You start to be scratching for content, and you sort of need to expand and find other types of content, which could also be a tip in itself. But in this instance, I was like, okay, it's time to slow things down a little bit, because then you can focus on making sure that each post is going to be high quality, and you can spend time going back and updating old posts. So decreasing the frequency after a while, after I built it, was actually a proactive move to improve traffic. It's sort of, in this case, I would say it was more of a maintenance thing. Because if you've got the heart and you want to keep that frequency up, that's fine. But in this instance, I was able to maintain those numbers for years afterwards by posting much less. Sometimes, the last few years, I post once a month. Sometimes I'll miss a month, but that old content keeps bringing in people. And by posting at least something every month or so, I'm still getting fresh content up there for people who've been following me. But the good news is that autoresponder series I mentioned earlier gets all my new visitors. They get to sort of relive that old content, and I keep it updated. So it's been a good move for me to sort of take a few steps back so I can focus on other things, such as this YouTube channel and website, which I'm now trying to build. So that's been pretty much the story of how I got over 2 million visitors to this website. Just taking step by step by step. All these steps are basic, but at the end of the day, you got to offer value. That's the main thing. Taking these steps will help, but you got to make sure that what you want is something unique, something that people want. That's the main thing, because millions of people don't land on a site, or thousands even, without something of value being there. And that's how you can basically make it become a bit more seamless, because their value's there, it's built, it's sitting there and ticking away. So yeah, I hope you found that video useful. If you have any questions about how I grew the site that I maybe didn't answer here, leave a comment. If you've got any other strategies you've used to grow a site, leave a comment. I'd love to hear pretty much any input you have about growing a website down below, or any questions. And I'd love to keep the conversation going. I always respond to comments, so yeah, leave one below. Otherwise, if you like the video, please give it a like. If you want to see more like this, please consider subscribing, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.